We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday. And I got to be honest, I was kind of slacking with regards to TikTok on Friday. I had a lot of shit going on, and I didn't notice any major stories that really caught my interest, but I wasn't paying that close of attention. I think I told you before in the last show that my son got married yesterday, and I was the officiant, and the day was pretty well stacked with stuff to do. We had a wedding on this pavilion on the lake I live on. It was beautiful. We thought it might rain yesterday, but it was absolutely perfect. Sun, warm. It was perfect. So we were glad of that. Then afterwards, we went and had lunch at a nice restaurant nearby. Uh, this was just family and a few friends that were at this wedding. It wasn't a big affair, but we went and had lunch, and that was a nice time. And then after that, um, I got my granddaughter staying with us overnight. So I was pretty excited about that. My focus was elsewhere. Now my wife and my granddaughter is in bed, and I'm going to do a podcast in spite of the fact that I was busy all day Friday. Now, I didn't really have much time to prepare for this. I just am keeping track of the emails that I've been getting that I haven't been able to read because of the guest on the show. And it turns out I got a lot of fucking emails. So I've got to get to the emails, and I've got to catch up because I feel committed to reading the emails that people take the time and effort to send me. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to read a whole shitload of emails. And there's a lot of crazy shit going on in this country. Of course, P. Diddy, this whole situation, that sounds like it's going to explode with maybe some other people of note that are involved in this disgusting, fucking ridiculous shit that we're hearing about. We're also hearing that Matt Gaetz, there's some more documents that came out that implicate him even further in sex trafficking and having sex with an underage woman, girl, 17. That's crazy. And then you throw in all the other shit. Donald Trump continuing to say stupid shit, crazy shit, dangerous shit, like the shit he's talking about with Springfield, Ohio. And of course, JD Vance as well. There's a lot going on. We're going into the weekend. Presumably, things will get a little more tame. I will be catching up on TikToks tomorrow. And of course, we'll do the podcast as well. But let's get to the business at hand. Let's get to the emails. First one says, "Hey, my name is Jason. Love the show. When talking about Trump saying Haitian people eating people's animals makes me wonder why nobody has asked, isn't that one of the countries you referred to as a shithole country? So is this not a personal bias on your behalf?" I don't know if Haiti was one of the places he's called a shithole country, or if he was just referring to any country that's predominantly black as a shithole country. My guess is that the latter. Donald Trump is a consummate, the epitome of a racist. I know Trumplafucks will come on to my page and other pages and try to say, he's not racist. Just give me one situation where he's proved to be racist. Well, there's hundreds of them going back to the 70s. Donald Trump is a racist. I don't care what anybody says. And I think that anybody who continues to support Donald Trump is as good as a racist. They may not see themselves as racists, but if you support a racist, you're an accessory after the fact. Thank you, Jason. Next one comes from Gina from Massachusetts. She says, please use your platform to talk about Javian McGee or Javian McGee. Also, how Springfield, Ohio had to close two elementary schools. I believe the orange stain is a true danger to the people of this country. The hate he spews has got to be stopped now. His hate speech and the people who are still with him are absolute traitors and should be treated accordingly. Thanks for letting me vent, Gina from Massachusetts. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. The fact that Donald Trump continues to speak in these inflammatory terms and put people in Springfield, Ohio, and frankly, people around the country at risk is abhorrent. I'm not sure why the DOJ hasn't stepped in and tried to protect the people they are in charge of protecting. I have a lot of problems with the DOJ and certainly Merrick Garland. So hopefully, if we can get through this time without anybody more getting hurt, get Kamala Harris elected and they get Merrick Garland's ass kicked out of the job because clearly he cannot handle it. All right, the next one comes from Karen from North Carolina. Again, LOL. Oh my God, I'm in the middle of listening to today's episode, and you and Will are talking about exactly what was burning up my mind today. How in the hell is it not domestic terrorism what is going on in Springfield, Ohio now? The death threats, the Haitians living in fear, schools having to close, etc., all because these maggots are taking up the mantle for their Lord and Savior and tormenting these townspeople. He's a convicted felon. Could they please find a way to charge him criminally? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't charged criminally. I mean, if you incite violence, whether it be against the Capitol and government officials or just anybody, it's still against the law. And this is what I was saying earlier. Why has the DOJ not done anything to try to stop this? Why? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is fodder for Kamala Harris. Is everybody so paralyzed during a presidential campaign that nobody has the courage to do anything? Does that mean during a presidential campaign, if you are a candidate, you can do whatever you want? They would likely say no, but from what we see, clearly that's not the case. Donald Trump gets away with anything and everything he does. The only hope I see in this situation is when he loses this election, and he will. When he loses this election, all the protection is gone, and Donald Trump is going to get decimated, not only in the election, but by the judicial system. Once he has no more appearances of protection, like being a candidate for president. All right, the next one says, "Hello, Mike. I'm a first time emailer, long time listener of your podcast. I first listened to your TikToks in 2020 and have loved your content ever since. Thank you very much. Being at the end of the boomer era myself, born in 61, I, like you, have seen and been through a lot of shit over the years. As a black LGBTQIA plus woman, I've been behind the eight ball most of my life, but my intelligence and riz have kept me out of the line of fire of most haters. I can also read a crowd and know when to keep my mouth shut when necessary, when my safety is questioned. However, within the last few years, I needed to speak out against the blatant hate, misogyny, and bigotry that has poisoned our country. I attribute my epiphany to you, Old Soul, Ed, Abe, Eric, Dr. Arlene, and other creators who have done the footwork possible to bring to light that we need to research and educate ourselves, not to be misinformed or misled by propaganda. Now, after the debate last Tuesday evening, absolute entertainment, please tell me how pundits can say that Kamala Harris is lying about specific issues. Does it have to do with her stance on fracking? Also, can you tell me how she didn't answer the questions that she was asked? For example, how did she not address the border or illegal immigrant question? She told all of us that she had a bill in place and told us that what was in it. And it was not passed in the House because Trump made a few calls and told them not to pass it. Why isn't factual about that? What did she address that wasn't true or questionable? She addressed the abortion human rights issue skillfully, discussed the plan for almost every issue she was thrown at, and explained her stance on them and why each issue is important to address. Am I missing something here? No, you're not missing anything. Everything you're saying is true. The problem is the problem I've said all along. It's our mainstream media. They are conditioned to lower the bar for Donald Trump and raise the bar for Kamala Harris. Thing about it is Kamala Harris is too strong a candidate. They can try to fuck around like this, but it's not doing any good. The polls are going up. Her support is increasing every day, both in fundraising and appearing in campaign rallies. They're trying to even this out. They're trying to give Donald Trump a break or two. And I don't care what anybody says. I'd be happy to talk to anybody on MSNBC or CNN and have them tell me why they can say that they aren't, that they're being fair and balanced. They are not being fair and balanced. And that's why I think going in after this election, I'm personally going to be watching less of the mainstream media because they've been lying to us all the time or misinforming us or misleading us. And I'm tired of it. I'm just fucking tired of it. The email goes on and says the political arena has recently revealed many things that have always lurked beneath the surface. I believe the American people as a whole, though we do have dipshits out there, are principled, decent citizens who want to live productive and enriching lives. I agree with you. I think the vast majority of people are decent people. It's this that these Trumplafuck dumbfucks are just talking louder than anybody else. And for whatever reason, people are buying the bullshit they're spewing. As you and Ed have said, over the last 50 years, we've slowly been lulled into a stupor, allowing those bigger microphones and louder voices to dictate how we live, what is right and wrong based on lining their own pockets. Now we find ourselves in a situation. Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Since we know better, we need to do better. How people can make excuses for this narcissist is beyond me. Harrison Walls will bring back the humanity missing from our society. Go Blue, adjunct professor in California. Didn't give a name, but I appreciate the note and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have lowered the bar for this country. Donald Trump says something and immediately people believe it, which seems ironic to me when we know for a fact he's a pathological liar. He lies every day, all day, but people still believe it. And I'm not just talking about Republicans, I'm talking about Democrats too. Every day somebody will come to me and say, I'm scared of this. And I say, where did you hear that? And they'll say, well, Donald Trump is saying it. It seems confident about it. This guy is mentally damaged. You can't read him like you would read somebody else. He is conditioned to lie and lie constantly. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you believe him. And if you believe what the media tells you, it may be partially true, but slanted or manipulating you somehow. You really got to be discerning about what you're hearing and where you're hearing it from. If it sounds weird or not right, I guarantee you it's not. That's why I honestly think we're going to be seeing a lot of people moving away from mainstream media after the election. After all these months and months of them telling us this race is close, when it becomes a decisive win or even a landslide, people are going to have to question the mainstream media. How did you not know? Clearly, you didn't know in 2022 when you said there's going to be a red wave. How do you fuck that up? You've got all the resources, you've got all the manpower, you've got all the money, you got everything, and you still get it wrong. Are you getting it wrong because you don't know? Are you getting it wrong because you're trying to manipulate us? I think the latter, to be perfectly honest with you. So now that you know that, the best thing you can do is either not watch it, not listen to it, or not trust it. You know, what did Reagan say once? Um, I can't give you the exact quote, but basically it was trust but verify. And that's kind of what I do with the rational boomer thing. I hear the stories. I go, that's interesting. But then I do some digging into a lot of sources that I know can be trusted. And if I can corroborate that information, it makes sense that it's probably true. I wish more alleged journalistic outlets did this. It's a simple process, it's a standard process if you're engaging in journalism. But apparently, journalism isn't an important thing right now when it comes to the mainstream media because that's not what they're doing. They're not practicing journalism. All right, the next one says, hi, Boomer. You say our work isn't over after the election day, and I agree. In fact, I say it's just the beginning. I agree with that. Getting Dems involved in running for local office, holding elected officials' feet to the fire for promises they made, continued recruiting, etc., all are necessary for a continuum of the Democratic Party ideals and democracy. I also know that we're seeing a lot of Republicans standing up for Kamala. We all know the reason they are jumping their political party ideology ship is to save democracy, because without it, Republicans will never serve another day in office. Dick Cheney knows full well that his little girl will never realize the presidency, vice presidency, or any other office for that matter again without it. A word to the wise, don't get too comfortable with that idea. We will have only 2 years to get things done, providing we win both the House and the Senate, before the Republicans will gain another chance to obtain offices. After the second year, they will fight like hell to regain those offices. Yes, they will. And that's common, historically speaking, that's how it works out. They get the first 2 years and then somehow the Republicans pull it out. But we are in different times right now. The damage they did to this country, this overturning of Roe v. Wade, this isn't something people are going to forget about. They're not going to forget about this. Donald Trump is burning down the Republican Party. It's not like other years where the Republican Party loses, they regroup, and they come back and they win. This Republican Party has to rebuild, reimagine, come up with something totally different. And if they're having to do that, we're looking at 8 to 10 years to get that done. So I'm hoping against hope Donald Trump completes his plan of burning down the Republican Party. Then I hope the Democrats see the opportunity, take advantage, and do a lot of goodwill, so that they can remain in office. You can only hope that will happen. But again, we're talking about politicians, so I don't honestly know what to think. We have to wait and see, and we should have learned a lesson. We are in this position now because we were apathetic. We didn't look into things. We didn't speak up, and these people just ran roughshod against us, Republicans and Democrat both. Well, they've woken a sleeping giant in the people. Our Constitution says, for the people, by the people, but it hasn't been that in a long time. The only way we get that is we talk loud, we fight, and we keep pushing. That's what we need to do once this election is over, regardless of how it ends up. Going on, it says, while I'm thankful for their contribution at this time, I recognize that, like the farmer who feeds and protects his livestock, yet slaughters them in the end, we Democrats are being harvested too. We must continue to fight. Getting comfortable is not a luxury we can afford. In fact, our work is going to get harder. Democrats can never go back to the slothy complacency which allowed Trumpism to occur in the first place. Right now, we are on a sugar high, and the sweet spot is Kamala. Don't let this be Circe. We have seen the weaknesses and cannot depend on, if we do the right things, that the right things will just magically happen. No more sleeping at the switch. While it almost seems impossible for me to be unable to start my day without your common sense views and approach to politics, I cannot stress enough the strength and endurance that we must retain. We can never afford for the theater to go dark. Always carry the torch, and I know you will, but will the people? Contrary, Mary. And I couldn't agree more with that. We can't get lazy. We've been lazy in the past, and we have what we have. I mean, as much as I want to blame the media, Donald Trump, the Republicans, even the Democrats to a certain extent, the people truly responsible for putting us in this situation is us. This should have never have happened. If we were doing our job, speaking out and pushing back constantly, being involved in politics, speaking our mind, this wouldn't have happened. The media would feel the pressure, and they wouldn't feel good about lying to us if we decided to stop listening to them. Um, Politicians wouldn't do the things they do if they thought there might be some accountability, whether it be in elections or otherwise. It is on us. We need to learn that lesson. and we need to change our ways going on in the future after the election. I'll be honest with you, we have kind of changed our pace. We are very aware of what's going on. We're talking loud. We're doing what we need to do. But again, if we get this win, we cannot be lazy. Now, the emailer goes on, my concerns are with the sheer volume of voter suppression efforts. I live in a very red area of Michigan. It is not safe to have a blue yard sign or wear a Harris shirt in my county. The Trumplifucks in this place are a whole different level of violent and ignorant. These right wing nuts are threatening poll watchers, threatening election workers, standing with weapons in many parts of the country to intimidate voters and poll workers. In Texas, they dragged that old lady in her 80s, late 80s, outside and made her stand out there in her nightgown, ashamed in front of her neighbors. They are scrubbing names from registrations. They are filing lawsuits to prevent people from helping register voters. They won't let someone give water to the people in line in some places. They decrease drop boxes. They make it as hard as possible to vote. Now they are each using software to challenge tens of thousands of voters. This feels a lot like trying to patch a boat while the guy behind is drilling the new holes. Now we have Trump threatening jail time to people that donate money if he wins. Not gonna lie, I wish I had not donated right now. Yeah, I understand that. I I understand what you're saying here, and it is a scary situation, but we need to be tough. These people are cowards. They're bullies, but they're cowards. Actually, following through with something, chances are they aren't going to do it. That doesn't mean don't be safe. Um, but if we don't fight back, we'll deal with this forever. Email continues, my life has felt like I'm in danger since my family started in the cult. I know you say not to worry, that it generally isn't worth it since we get through it. I see it a little differently since Trump. I'm worried that we would lose someone to his lies and warned my family of that worry. They believed Trump when he said COVID was a hoax, so my dad died of COVID in the first year. The aunt who gave it to my family was wearing a Trump button and a faith, not fear pin. So sometimes the worry is for a reason because these people are so stupid and crazy. It's just so much to deal with at one time. I'm afraid that we can't patch the holes in the boat fast enough. I hear lots of problems, but the solutions aren't always easy to find. Thanks for listening, Amanda. Well, I tell you this, Amanda, take a look at what's going on. Things are changing quickly. Those things that may have worked for Donald Trump and the Republicans in the past ain't working anymore. The times have changed. The times are different. I realize it's scary in certain circumstances, but these people are truly weak. They are truly weak. We get through this election. We're, what are we, month and a half away from the election, thereabouts. Let's just push it and ride it out to that point because once that election happens, it does change everything. That's not to say that Donald Trump isn't going to claim that the election was rigged or that Trump-lefucks are going to be complaining, but they aren't as violent as they once were. I mean, we know that they attacked the Capitol, but that was a much different situation in 2020. Donald Trump was the president, he had the control in Congress. That's not the case this time. This time, we have Joe Biden as president, Kamala Harris as vice president. By January 3rd, we'll have the new House of Representatives in, and presumably that will be Democratic run. And Hakeem Jeffries will be the Speaker of the House, and Mike Johnson will be no more in terms of being Speaker of the House. All right. Next one says, hi, Boomer. Listener Matt here. On a recent episode, your listener Will recommended that Alex Garland movie Civil War, which is now streaming on HBO Max. He called it a masterpiece, and I disagree. I find that for a film about a potential modern day civil war, the film was strangely apolitical and chooses not to take a side, and that is potentially dangerous standpoint for a film to take, as the worst people in the crowd could use the messaging in that film to make the story be whatever they want it to be. As a side gig, I write movie reviews for a friend's website, and I've attached my review for the film below. Keep in mind, this is written back in April before the state of the election vastly changed. I'm less scared about where we're headed right now, and that's thanks to the groundswell of support for Kamala Harris that I've witnessed over the past few months. The absolutely delicious downfall of Trump and the Republican Party as a whole. The fact that I'm seeing significantly fewer yard signs for Trump in my Pittsburgh suburb where I live, but also to the people like you, your guest, and others I've found on TikTok. As always, thank you for what you do. It means the world to me. Take care, Matt in Pittsburgh. Well, Matt, I appreciate that immensely. I appreciate you listening. And I have not seen the movie that Will recommends. It may very well be a good movie. It's not the kind of movie I would watch. I understand your point. But again, we're talking about a fiction movie. I don't know why they chose to be apolitical. Maybe it was because they were concerned about how ticket sales or anything else might go if they picked a villain, a bad side. I agree with you. If you're going to do it, let's do it. We know what's going on. We know who the people are that are responsible for the problems that we have right now. Why not just fucking say it? So I don't know. I'll ask Will about that. I'm sure Will have some interesting insights about that. Maybe it's something he hadn't thought of, or maybe he has a different perspective. We want to hear that. So when I talk to him next time, we'll try to discuss this and see why he thinks it's a good movie and you don't feel as such. All right, next. Hi, Mike, on Trump's ass backwards tariff talking points. During a recent one-on-one interview, Trump dribbled on about his genius Terry's plan. What gets me is the blowhard said that for years some countries have charged the USA 100, 200, 300% tariffs. My simple request to the reporter, ask shithead when, what country exactly? Just pisses me off after seeing Kamala make that orange ape dance. Why the hell can't a half decent professional reporter take him to task? It would be oh so easy to corner him. It could be a national competition amongst reporters to fuck him up. To paraphrase Trump on Roy Cohn, where the hell is our Edgar J. Murrow? Thanks, Paul. And I couldn't agree more on this particular topic. We've talked about it quite a bit. And I've said that if any reporter was worth their salt in 2015, they would have pushed back. They would have cornered him because he was telling lies then. Problem was, is he was kind of a dancing monkey and he was worth some viewership, which means money to the media. And they were willing to sacrifice the safety of this country for their own pocketbooks. And therein lies the problem for us when it comes to the mainstream media. This is why I say it's almost getting to the point they're wrong all the time. They misinform us, they mislead us, they manipulate us. Why watch the motherfuckers? Their ratings are dropping like rocks anyway. I think more people are going to come to social media to get their information. They're going to have to pick and choose who gives them that information because there are some bad people on social media. So you got to be very careful who you pick and what you listen to. All right, the next one, and then we'll take a break. Abraham Lincoln warned us about the proneness of prosperity to breed tyrants. Why? But these studies are recent. Where could Abraham Lincoln have learned about the proneness of prosperity to breed tyrants? Perhaps from reading about the history of the Declaration, reading that Benjamin Franklin was friends with David Hume, and then reading from David Hume's book on the history of England. I wonder if your subscribers would know more. Well, I don't know more, and we can hope that maybe our subscribers do know. That signed by Lee. That seems like wise advice. Proneness of prosperity to breed tyrants. We see that playing out in real time in this country, whether it be corporations, Elon Musk, Donald Trump himself. We are getting tyrants. That's exactly what Donald Trump wants to be. He wants to be a fucking tyrant. So I would say that Lincoln was on point with that perception, and how he would have gotten it so many years before, I'm not sure, unless, as you say, what was going on in England may have been the cue there. But we know this is a fact right now. People get a lot of money, they get a lot of power, and they decide they want all the money and all the power. A perfect example of that is this whole situation with P. Diddy, with Bill Cosby, with Jeffrey Epstein. With P. Diddy and his feet held to the fire, I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, those black people, they do some horrible things. And I got to be honest with you, from what we've seen from Matt Gaetz to Jeffrey Epstein to many of the other people that may have been involved with P. Diddy, it isn't about race. It isn't about black people, white people, Asian people. This is clearly about people with a lot of money, a lot of arrogance, a lot of greed, a lot of power, and them just abusing the system because they think they can get away with it. Fact of the matter is, the DOJ has allowed them to get away with it. Diddy is in jail right now, but he's been doing what he's been doing for fucking decades. So is Matt Gaetz. So is Donald Trump. It's great that you're making them accountable now, but where were you in the last 20 years when people were suffering and being abused and even being killed? Where the fuck were you? That's a question that needs to be answered, and hopefully it will be at some point, and hopefully we can rectify that situation and get things moving the way they're fucking supposed to move. All right, we are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. All right, we are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Next email says, hey, Mike, I'm listening to the podcast with Karen on Saturday morning. By the way, she's a great guest. I agree. She did a wonderful job. I'm sure she's going to be on at some time in the not so distant future. I look forward to talking to her again as well. Do you think that Vance will still be the fucktard Trump's running mate when they're supposed to have the vice presidential debate? Thank you for everything you do, Cress. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to drop JD. I don't know that it helps him to do that. It may hurt him. And if his people around him realize that it'll do more damage by dropping him, I think you probably will be around, certainly by the debate. That debate might be the deciding factor. If he does badly, and he almost certainly will, he may use that to be the October surprise. Now, it's going to be a lame October surprise because if he thinks RFK Jr. is going to be a top prospect to be the VP candidate, we heard the news recently that apparently some reporter and he had some kind of illicit affair. This is constantly happening with RFK Jr. The guy's just weird. The guy is dangerous. The guy is goofy and psychologically just not all there. So I don't know if he'll drop JD Vance. Even if he does, it doesn't fucking make a difference. They don't have anybody else that's any better. And that's saying a lot given that JD Vance is an absolute piece of shit. All right, next one comes from Z-Man. Hello, Boomer and Boomer Brigade. Here's the problem and the reason for the anxiety. Why hasn't Biden acted on the powers that the SCOTUS has given him to make Trump pay for his inciting violence and BS? Why? He could end this now. Z-Man. Not true, Z-Man. You remember what happened with SCOTUS. They did say that a president is immune from official acts and not immune from unofficial acts. They didn't specify what those official acts are and what those unofficial acts are. They didn't say that. In fact, they passed the buck to Judge Chutkin, and Judge Chutkin has been cited to decide what's official and what's not official. So you can't really do anything or use that to your benefit until that decision's been made, until they equivocate who what is wrong or what is official and what's unofficial. That's why Joe Biden hasn't done anything. Plus, the fact he has a little integrity. He's an old school politician and he won't do something crazy. I would say, if I was Joe Biden, I don't know why you haven't called Merrick Garland and tell him to get to work, bitch. I know he likes to stay out of uh, an AG's way just to keep it above board. But we've got so much below board. There has to be a time when we have to make extra efforts just to save people's lives. That would seem like plenty of a reason to actually do something. So why hasn't Joe done anything? I don't know. Um, Somebody brought up the idea that we may see some big action from Joe Biden after the election because he can do some wild and strong shit, and they'll blame him and not Kamala Harris. Or he might wait until after January 3rd when the new Congress is put in place, and presuming that Democrats have the power in the House and the Senate, and Kamala isn't the president until January 20th, he could do a lot of shit and get away with it. I think when you're talking about politics, you're talking about timing. Everybody's looking at where does this put me? How does this help me? And how does it hurt me? It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So I'm not going to suggest that Joe isn't going to do something, but he's going to do it within the right time frame to save Kamala and take as little heat for himself as he can. All right. This next one comes from Will. He says, Mike, I hit 1,006 followers today. I'm having my first live tonight, 9 p.m. Now, this was a few days ago, so he's not having it tonight. Thank you for your support and advice. I appreciate you and all you do. Thank you for taking a chance on a random email. Talk soon, Will. Well, I'm glad to hear that you broke 1,000. In fact, when we had him on the hair at one point, he said he was close and he wanted to do a live, so I implored you to check him out and to follow him, and clearly you folks did that, and for that I appreciate it. I appreciate it immensely. Will's a smart guy. He knows a lot of stuff. He makes me look good when he's on the show, as do all the other guests. All right. Next email. Hi, Boomer. It's back to the blob analogy with this fucking Trump. He seeps into everything like a creeping mold. The outrageousness that a candidate for POTUS would endanger a community of hardworking folks in an Ohio town is beyond the pale. And right on the heels of that comes his moronic and dangerous post about Taylor Swift. Now, I think of the 5 to 11-year-old girls who want to happily wear their Swiftie gear. I raised a girl, I remember. And now I guarantee you some will cry as their idiotic Trumper father refuses to let them for reasons they can't and shouldn't understand. Yeah, that could happen, but I think there's a lot of dads out there, girl dads, who aren't going to play that game. They're going to side with their daughters, and maybe they supported Kamala and maybe they didn't. But because of that Taylor Swift endorsement, that's going to change some voters. And, if some of these little girls get backlash because they wear the shirts or whatever they do, I think you're going to see a lot of people rise up and cause some serious shit. The amount of followers, the amount of fans that Taylor Swift has is significant. And they're not all 5 and 11-year-olds. They're millennials, they're Gen Zs, people who actually vote. And there are, like I say, girl dads who will do anything for their daughters and probably won't like that as well. Um, I think about those things now that I have a granddaughter who's sleeping in the back room back there. I hope she kept getting up, but that's her. Um, I just don't think you're going to see a lot of Trump dads um, admonishing their own daughters. They'll find a way around it, one way or another. The email continues on, or others will be encouraged to bully other kids for wearing a shirt or having a Swifty backpack or whatever. Yeah, I fucking dare you to do that. If Swifties are starting to get bullied, there's going to be hell to pay. And Taylor Swift will be leading the fucking pack. This malignant motherfucker will even manage to inject extra trauma into the lives of funny, goofy young girls who just want to have fun. I can't wait to have him to end as a constant source of aggravation and collective risk. Best, Garage Door Jeff. P.S. I hope they are applying the highest level of security for all four current POTUS and VP candidates. Yeah, I've said that before. I don't want to see Donald Trump go down to assassination or even keel over with some illness. I want him to survive through the election, through the inauguration, and I want him to live a happy, healthy life. Well, healthy life. I want to see this accountability fall on Donald Trump's head. I want it to be done. I've said before that I think we need a big win to not only take the power away from MAGA, but to help heal this country. People always say, well, if we indict or convict or jail a former president, it'll cause divisiveness. I'll tell you this, based on what I hear from people, if Donald Trump is let off the hook and is not accountable, that's when we're going to have the divisiveness. That's when we're going to have the problem. So hopefully the DOJ, Kamala, Joe Biden understand this and don't listen to the bullshit that, oh, if we prosecute him, it's going to be bad for the country. That's along the same lines as, oh, that trickle down effect really works. Neither one is correct. Trickle down never worked. And the fact that they still try to shove it down our throats is fucking ridiculous. But the idea that we've got to be forgiving and let Donald Trump off the hook, that's not going to go well in this country. We've been oppressed by this motherfucker for 8 years. People are excited about Kamala because they see some light at the end of the tunnel and they are excited about that. But if you let him off the hook somehow, some way, you're going to have a lot of angry motherfucking people. And then you're going to have problems in this country. All right, next up. Hi, Mike. Hope all is well with you. Thanks so much for your show. Really look forward to it. And your guests are awesome. Since all this mess started with Rumpo, it's caused me to pay more attention. I think it's caused a lot of people to pay more attention. Have been living in Florida a few years after leaving as a child. Not sure the state will go blue this time. I'm scheduled to go out canvassing in Broward County later today, so we'll get a chance to see what it's like here. Looks like we may need more help in PA than Florida. And Old Soul mentioned she's going there. She is there. She's canvassing there with a bunch of other folks. Do you know how to find out where to go that needs the most help? Or maybe Old Soul knows. I guarantee you Old Soul knows, and I guarantee you she's listening to this podcast. So, Old Soul, if you can give us some information as to where people can go if they want to help, that would be helpful. She either knows, and I know Old Soul, she either knows or she'll find out. I promise you on that. They finish up by saying, any direction appreciated, trying to do more than ever this time to help us get the win. Much love, Michelle in South Florida. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate the efforts. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you listening. Hey, Boomer and Boomer Brigade. I just read an article in the Huffington Post that was rather disturbing. Trump's niece basically said Trump is not taking his campaign seriously because he's depending on MAGA in control and his handpicked friends on the court to cheat and hand them the presidency when he loses. She said this must be prevented at all cost. How do we stop this from happening? Well, the efforts, and that comes from Z-Man. Well, the efforts are already being made. Anything that he might try to pull after this election is something he's already tried in 2020. He had the power, he had the control. He still lost. Now we know that Kamala Harris is hiring 10 times as many lawyers to be on top of everything. If he couldn't be successful when he was in power, he's going to have little chance with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in power. It's just, there's no surprises here. They know exactly what he's going to do. They've prepared for it and they will shut it down. And I honestly think that the election will be so big in the favor of Kamala Harris that it won't even make a difference. Hi again, Mike. As usual, I've been enjoying all your guests, new and old, and the live shows have been great too. I listen to you on my Apple Podcast app because I don't have Spotify. I was thinking that maybe there might be others out there who want to get your show but think they can't because they don't have Spotify. Just a thought. Keep up the good work that you do for us every day. It's much appreciated. Peg HM. Yeah, actually, you can get the podcast any number of places. You can get it on Apple. I'll be honest with you, the highest percentage of people that listen to the show actually listen on Apple. Spotify is a distant second. There are other places too, like I think Amazon Prime, you can hear it on there, the audio. I think Audible, you can hear it there. There's a number of outlets. Virtually anywhere you go to listen to podcast, you can probably find the Rational Boomer podcast there. So check it out. All right, the next one. Hey there, Boomer. I was just thinking about how often you mention how the mainstream media says that this race is so close, but it occurred to me that if the media were saying that Harris is so far ahead, just perhaps a lot of people may not bother to vote because they may think that it's in the bag. So, would you consider that perhaps it's better for the media continuing to say that this race is so close? P.S. Thanks for keeping me encouraged. Will N. Yeah, I understand that ideology. I know a lot of people employ it. Well, if we tell them that she's going to win, they'll just get lazy and not come out and vote. I would never do that to the people who listen to this show because I think it's an insult. I think people who take the time to listen to this show already know what they're going to do, what they need to do, and they're not taking any chances. And I've said this before, if you are swayed by the fact that maybe Kamala will win, I'll give you another goal to go after. If you think Kamala's going to win, you decide you're not going to vote, put it this way. I think as much as beating Donald Trump is important, I think beating him decisively is also important. I think that's what's going to help to heal this country when there's essentially a mandate against Donald Trump, MAGA, and the Republican Party. So even if you think Kamala's going to win, I would suggest this. Let's make it a landslide. Let's make it the greatest landslide in the history of this country. Make our point. Make our point to Donald Trump, MAGA, and the Republicans. And then they have to react accordingly. I think Kamala will win. I think she'll win decisively, but I'll be first in line to vote because I want this win bigger than anything we've ever seen before. Send a message to Donald Trump and the Republicans. And then they're going to have to sit back and dig their way out of a hole that might take anywhere from 6 to 10 years, which means the Democrats have plenty of time to get the things done they've been talking about. All right. Next one says, hello, Boomer. I'm going to admit right off the bat that I'm emailing you as a basket full of nerves. As I say this, I remember how you give us that pep talk about feeling worried or nervous. But my mom shared with me that it was a breaking news on Lawrence O'Donnell's show last night. The Chief Justice Roberts pushed for a quick immunity in favor for Trump. Apparently, it was a leak. Yeah, apparently it was a leak. I understand how that might worry you, but I'm feeling pretty positive about it because leaks coming out of the Supreme Court never was a thing. You would never hear a leak, but now we're hearing leaks. that means there's trouble. There is divisiveness on the Supreme Court. And I'll be honest, I'm not surprised that John Roberts was behind this and this immunity thing. And now that it's been exposed, he has to address that thing. The fact that we now know it is far better than if we never knew it, never knew why this immunity thing happened. This will further discredit the whole decision. And I don't know, maybe it allows us a chance to get a recount or a vote on the immunity thing. I don't know that to be the case, but when something is proven to be outright corrupt, there's got to be a fix for it. The letter goes on. Do you know anything about this? As I am sending this email before the Lawrence O'Donnell show is over, and more was going to be said about it at the end of the show. Appreciate your reporting. I always look forward to listening to you, Judy, in New Mexico. I do watch Lawrence O'Donnell a lot, and I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that this isn't surprising. John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, some of the other Republicans, we know they've been gaming the system all along, and this is why we have a lot of talk from the Democrats that once they get power, they need to address the problems of the Supreme Court. The news isn't surprising to me, but hopefully it causes people to react more and stronger and quicker once they have the power to do so. All right, she actually sent a second email, also breaking news on Lawrence O'Donnell's show. J.D. Vance has come out saying, why hasn't there been an assassination attempt on VP Harris? Why can't he be held accountable for such dangerous rhetoric? Hope you can give me some more peace of mind. Well, I will just say this, Judy. We're doing pretty good. We're doing way better than a lot of people gave the Democrats credit for now. We're on a roll. We're rolling over the top of Donald Trump. As far as what J.D. Vance is saying, that he can't understand why Kamala Harris hasn't had any assassination attempts, that's just flat out stupid. I don't know that it's illegal. I think what is illegal is him inciting violence in Springfield. J.D. Vance's indiscretions have to be addressed. But as I've told you before, the way it's going and the way we see the DOJ working, ain't nothing going to happen until after the election. There's a lot of things we'd want happen. There's a lot of things that should happen, but I honestly don't believe anything much is going to happen until after the election. But when the election is over, I do think there's going to be some mass indictments and things are going to get a little crazier, all of which will be negative for the Republicans. All right, dear Mr. Boomer, greetings from the UK. I've been listening to your podcast for quite a while now, at least 6 months, and I've caught most episodes. I share your contempt for the ex-President Trump and really hope that your efforts to contribute to him not being reelected in November. I agree that it is highly unlikely considering what has happened since his success in 2016. I feel very unqualified to comment on the happenings in the U.S. I did live there for a while in the Bay Area whilst working for a large U.S. company related to semiconductor manufacturers. This was back in the late 90s. My time there was pleasant enough, although I was subject to some racist abuse from a white guy at a party. I'm also white, for fuck's sake. He was a well-known tool, and it was more a reflection on his shortcomings than anything that I had done apart from being British. Anyway, back to the point. I struggle to understand the mindset of the MAGA cult. I can only imagine that their lives must be so miserable for some reason that following Trump appears to be a possible route to escape from whatever troubles them. What I don't understand is how MAGA people cannot see Trump for who he really is. I've been aware of Trump since the 80s. I even brought my late father The Art of the Deal because at the time Trump was hailed as an extraordinary, successful businessman. How times have changed. I think it would make an interesting episode, perhaps in conjunction with Arlene, to dig into the background of what makes a MAGA an option. Trump is a dick. This is a fact and well established by now. He belongs in jail and hopefully sees out his days in one. I mean, a proper jail, not some white collar hotel with a token lock on the outside of his room door. A loud, nasty jail where he fears to use the shower, as there is always the risk of becoming some large gentleman's bitch. I disagree with you there. I think, sexually speaking, Donald Trump's not going to have a big market value, even in jail. This is a goofy, gooey, shit pants, punk ass bitch. I think he's more likely to be attacked and injured than sexually assaulted. I'm just saying. I would really like to know more about the social situation that has nurtured the cult of MAGA. There must be a lot of material here and would like to provide enough content for several podcasts. Maybe Ed would have some valuable insights. Just a thought from the UK. Take care and good luck for November 5th. Neil. P.S. If you get the time, I strongly recommend listening to this series. It is produced by BBC Radio 4 and gives some background, which I'm sure you're already familiar with, to the current state of politics in the U.S. Sure, I will check it out. I think that, oh boy, hold on a second. I lost my video. This happens every so often. I don't know if it's a connection or what it is, but I'm back now. I'm back now. That picture sucks. It absolutely sucks. Um, in terms of what nurtured MAGA, we have talked about this before, and anything I say is just purely speculation, but I've known some narcissists and I know some cult members of this fucked up MAGA group. What I honestly believe, when you look at the base, it's largely Southern poor people or rich white people. Those are the people that support him. The rich white people make some sense. Whether they're in the cult or not, I don't know. But it makes sense because they see Donald Trump giving them more money, more tax breaks, and in turn giving them more power. I think that has a lot to do with it. But on the other side of the coin, I think the situation is when we have these poor white people in the South, these people are not happy with their lives. They feel like they're being oppressed by the country, that the country is taking advantage of them at every turn. Donald Trump comes out and says, I'm one of you, I'm going to fight for you. Now, nobody with a reasonable mind would believe him. But when people feel like they're in a desperation mode and they have no power, when they get a champion like Donald Trump, even as bad as he is, they will follow him. They will listen to him. They will apologize for him. So I think it has a lot to do with that. And that should be a red flag to our government, generally speaking, both Republican and Democrat. If people are so desperate in their financial situations that they'll follow a dumbass like Donald Trump, maybe there's a problem we need to look at, especially if we get some power. All right, the next one. Hi, Mike. Just watched the interview with Rich Lowry, and he did say the N word. What the fuck? I had it in the back of my mind that that dumb fuck Trump might say it to Kamala at the debate. Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised by that either. Thanks for everything you do, Cress. Well, it's funny. We get all these things happening all the time. Everybody is appalled by it, but then it just fades away. We've got so many things to be angry about, so many things to be upset about, and it's tiring. At some point, people have to be held accountable. And for this guy to say what he did on the air, I don't know that it's illegal, but that motherfucker should be canceled at the very least. Next one says, Hi, I'm Mike J from California here. Saw your podcast with Eric from Iowa and wanted to let you know that the guy you're thinking about the scream that ended his career, was named Howard Dean. That's correct. I remember now. He was a third party candidate in '04, not '08, but close. That aside, Dirty Diaper Donnie is now officially a domestic terrorist and should be locked up, if not put down. This man is so fucking evil that no punishment, in my opinion, is too extreme for his Nazi ass. Row your vote, all rowboat. And that's Jay from California. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Okay. Now, somebody wrote this to me and they said it's not for the podcast. So I'm not going to give the name. Um, but I want to talk about this because I listen to this every day and I brought this up on the podcast before. It says, please check. And I'm not going to give the name. So I'm not going to reveal anybody. It doesn't matter. I get 100 of these a day. Please check, not for podcast. I've noticed the sore on your nose. I was wondering if you've had that checked. Don't want to get in your business or belittle you. This is only out of concern. Skin is very sensitive to sun damage these days. I enjoy your videos very much. The best to you, sincerely. And I won't give the name. And I'm not trying to call this person out. I can't because I get this question all the time. And what they're talking about is this discoloration there. It's not a sore. It's not a lump. It's not a tumor. It's not cancer. I've had this discoloration on my nose for probably 10 years. Have I had it checked? Fucking, of course I've had it checked. It's not a thing. It's not a big deal. See, the problem is when you're watching on your phone and depending on what the lighting is, this can come out and look really prominent or not. It's a fucking discoloration. And I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go in and get some kind of cosmetic surgery to cover it up. I don't fucking care. I'm 64 years old. I got a lot of discolorations on my face and on my body and shit. That's just the way it goes. What I would tell folks, I appreciate the concern. Okay, I appreciate the concern, but don't diagnose me over a fucking TikTok video. If you want to ask me about it, I'll just tell you I've had it for 10 years. Doctors have looked at it. It's not a big deal. Don't tell me about your uncle who has cancer and I just don't want you to die. I'm fine. I'm not stupid. I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty self aware about my body. I did have cancer when I was 29 years old, testicular cancer, and I realized it before a doctor and my wife realized it. I know when shit's going wrong with my body or it's not right. I'm fine. I'm fucking fine. You don't have to ask me about it again. And again, I'm not yelling at you, the person who wrote this. I get literally hundreds of these a week asking the same question, and it does get tiring. I appreciate your concern for me, but give me the credit to be 64 years old and have anything and everything that might be physically wrong with me checked. I'd be stupid if I didn't. All right. Next one says, hi, Mike, Gen X Blue Dot in Central Ohio. Will was, as always, is on spot. Talking about the stupid people here that vote red baffles my mind as a lifelong Ohio native. Governor Devine has fucked over the people here for 40 years. As senator, AG, and now a two-term governor, I've been voting since 1990, and he has been in every circle for something, every cycle for something. I'm proud to have never cast a vote for him, never voted for Vance, and will not vote for Moreno. Ohio could flip blue with what I'm seeing. It needs to happen. Rodney. And that's the question. With what's going on in Springfield and how the Republicans and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are flat out attacking this town over nothing, over a lie. You would hope that the people in Ohio and other towns would see this and say, this is fucking crazy. This could happen in my town. Hopefully that will turn the state of Ohio blue. And if that happens, Donald Trump is in some big motherfucking trouble. All right, next up. I recently saw this post on Facebook. Could you please fact check this for me? I would appreciate it because I don't know who else to turn to but you, the rational boomer. Thank you for being you. My husband and I listen to you daily. I must send you the snapshot in a different email so it will follow, Patty. Now, clearly, I don't read these emails before I say them on the air. So I don't know what you're talking about. I will check on that, Patty, and I will get back to you as soon as I know. And here's another one from Patty. Maybe she comes out with that information. She goes on to say, all you Harris fans loving the unrealized gains tax to stick it to the rich, check it. It applies to all of us. Last year, I had a retirement account go from 70 to 110K, $40,000 gain, and I didn't touch it. But under her plan, I would have to pay 25% taxes on 40K, even though I just let it sit. So I pay 10K in taxes on that increase. Today I got a statement and my retirement account lost over 50K. It is less than what I had to start with over last year. I do not get a refund on 10K in taxes. Patty, we have talked about this here, and I unfortunately have to tell you, you're absolutely wrong and you're spewing bullshit. And again, I'm not calling you out. People say this all the time. And why do they say this? Because the Republicans told you this. And what did I just tell you? Don't listen to lying motherfuckers. Here's the deal, Patty. Unrealized capital gains will not affect you unless you got something going that I don't know. Those unrealized capital gains only apply to people with a net worth of over $100 million. It's not going to affect you and me. The increase in value in our homes, the increase in value in our investments, it's not going to affect us. So stop it. Stop listening to bullshit. I've told you this before. It's not going to affect us. You're going to have a net worth of $100 million, and then it will affect you. And the reason she is doing that is not to tax people about gains they haven't realized in a normal sense for us. You have to understand what these rich people do. These rich people never pay income tax, personal income tax. They never do. And you know why? Because all the money they gain year after year goes into their businesses, it goes into their investments. And then what they do to live, to have an income, they go in and take a loan from their own accounts or their own companies. A loans that they'll never pay back. But here's the deal. When they take that loan and they use that as income, it's not taxed because it's not income. It's a loan. It's a fucking loophole. It's a scam. That's what she's trying to do. Has nothing to do with you or me. So just relax. And I got to be honest with you. If you tell me that you got a statement and my retirement account lost 50K, I'd look at who's handling your account because the stock market is up to 42,000. It hit record highs. So how does a 401k lose money when we're hitting records in the stock market? You may want to look at that because that doesn't make any sense. All right, next one says, hi, Mike. I have an important message for all Republicans out there. Now that the truth is out about the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, eating dogs and cats, mainstream media is at it again, covering it up with all their fake news, hoaxes, and witch hunts. True Republicans know that this is only the tip of the iceberg. Immigrants are eating way worse things than that. Pet owners such as zebras, giraffes, elephants, wombats, hippopotamus should be very careful and keep them inside the house at all times, or else they'll wind up in Haitians' voodoo stew. Any people who do not have at least 45 generations back history in this country should be deported. Go MAGA Panzer. Okay. For those of you who have not heard Panzer before, this is all tongue in cheek. He's making fun of the Republicans. That isn't serious. All right. Hi, Boomer. Am I going crazy or is Facebook contradictory on its decision to take down my writing with Kamala post, but not Gail's post with false information saying that Kamala had the question prior to the debate? Truly, I need to know how this can be. It's not the first time this happened to me, and they say I can challenge it, but they give no option to do so. Just asking. Thanks, Contrary Mary. What you have to understand when you're dealing with social media, it's not that Facebook or TikTok is watching everything you write, everything you say, and everything you record. They don't have the capability of doing that. What's happening is some Trumplefuck is reporting your shit. They get the report, they get the complaint, and they immediately take it down, and then it's on you to appeal it. That's what's going on. So, with that in mind, just do what I've always told you. Block each and every Trumplefuck you can get. Anyone you see in your comments, block them immediately, no questions asked. Because if you let them stay there, they might give you more views, but they also put your platform and your content at risk. It's not Facebook picking you out. It's some Trumplefuck that's reporting you because they don't like you. And the natural process, they complain, they take you down, you appeal, you probably get put back up again. These people are just creating chaos, and then they're causing problems. They're despicable fucks. It's not Facebook picking you out specifically, with the exception of this. I will tell you, on some social media, they have some trigger words that come up, and that can trigger something, and that's just AI picking out a word and saying, well, that's a word we don't like, so we'll take it down. That's why when I do my TikToks, I always put a real generic um, title on it. Really generic. It doesn't tell you much of anything. It may be a word from my content. I don't do that. I make it very generic. And you'll also notice the only hashtags I put are Rational Boomer and Rational Boomer Podcast. I don't put any other hashtags in because I found that wrong hashtag with the wrong name or the wrong comment, that is a trigger for social media as well. Um, let's see here. Hey, Mike, nice chatting with you the other night. As you, I'm not big on polls, but this one caught my eye because it's a first. A poll with Colin Allred beating Lion Cancun Ted Cruz. Yeah, it's by 1 point, but like Kamala's, it's about a 10 or so point swing from previous polls. I've been watching some commercials, and old Ted hasn't been running commercials on local TV until now. He even had one on MSNBC. So, what did old Ted's commercial focus on? What's he done in the state or the Senate for Texas? Nope. He ran on one transgender and how Allred doesn't know the difference between boys and girls. What the fuck? Ted ain't touching the border or women's rights or the right to have IVF. Going on the old reliable lies and bigotry, just like his orange Jesus, dirty diaper Don. I'm optimistic Texas will vote for a candidate that has laid out his plan and not for one focused on monitoring bathrooms. Always optimistic, Jace, from the soon to be blue or purple state of Texas. I believe one or the other will happen. Jace. And Jace has been on the show, and he is from Texas, and he's starting to get the feeling that we might get a blue Texas. And if that happens, Donald Trump is done. All right, next one says, hi, Boomer. I'm a red dot in a blue state. What? I think you maybe wanted to transpose it, but let's read it the way she wrote it. I'm a red dot in a blue state, and all of my family are Trump supporters. Yeah, you're a blue dot in a red state. I'm sure that's what you meant. I love listening to your podcast as I'm terrified Trump will win, clear himself of any wrongdoing, and fix the system to stay in office beyond 2028. The number of people who blindly follow him and vote Republican at any cost is crazy. He still leads in the polls, and it would only take one slip up from Kamala to carry him over the line. I wish Kamala had more support. Elaine. Well, Elaine, if you believe that, you're not paying attention. One slip up from Kamala. Donald Trump slips up every fucking day. The polls are going in the favor of Kamala Harris, but as I've told you before, don't listen to the fucking polls. Look at the other facts. Look at the other data that tells you who's got the support and who doesn't. Kamala's raising 3 times as much money as Donald Trump. Isn't that the essence of support when somebody takes their own money and gives it to a candidate? That sounds like support to me. And she's more than triple of what Donald Trump is doing. Take a look at the ground game she has in any number of states, especially the swing states. She's got a huge ground game. Donald Trump has zero ground game. He doesn't have the money, he's lazy, and he doesn't have policy to sell. You might think that Kamala doesn't have a chance. I'm going to say it again, and people can hold me accountable for it. If I'm wrong, I will take the heat for it. But I think Kamala not only wins, but she wins big. And it's not because of what I hear or what I feel or what the politicians say. It's the facts that are out there. Donald Trump is the absolute worst presidential candidate in history. Kamala Harris is the most popular presidential candidate in history. Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions. He's been found liable of sexual assault. And the big one, he has embraced Roe v. Wade. Now we know by embracing Roe v. Wade, he's taken constitutional rights away from 50% of this country. We also know that 75% of the people in this country support Roe v. Wade. So when you look at all those facts, please tell me how Donald Trump is even fucking close. Facts over emotions, facts over bullshit. If you look at the facts, take the emotion out. Don't listen to the media bullshit. Certainly don't listen to Republicans. The facts tell the story. All right. Hello, Mike. It's OTR Over the Road Russell coming to you today from Glen Rio, New Mexico. Just checking in and wanted to get your take on the sheriff in Portage County, Ohio, wanting to obtain the addresses of all the folks in the county who put up Harris Walls signs in their yards. He says there are consequences that must be paid if you vote liberal. I'm wondering how he still has a job and hasn't been arrested. Seems to me this is clearly oppression under color of law. Is this now legal in America? There must be something us citizens can do about this. Also, I'm worried about Kamala Harris's safety, considering his orangeness has been pretty obviously calling out his cult to take her out. What the hell is going on here? Thanks for keeping us buckled up for this bumpy ride. This last few weeks is going to be crazy. OTR Russell. You're right. It's going to get crazy. And I've told you that before. You got to be prepared for this shit. You've got to be absolutely prepared because they are flailing. They are desperate. They don't know what to do. And we've already seen some crazy shit. And I dare say that it's going to get crazier. So we've got to deal with this. We've got to ride it out. As far as this sheriff, he's not going to get away with this ultimately. I don't know if he'll be around that much longer. What he did was absolutely egregious and absolutely fucking stupid. Um, so just deal with this shit as best we can because it's going to be okay. And I'm saying that based on the facts. If you look at the facts and the facts tell you something, you believe them. If the media tells you something, if the Republicans tell you something, or you just feel kind of queasy about something, throw that out. That doesn't mean anything. The facts will prevail here, and Donald Trump will go down in a significant defeat in November as well. There will be a lot of down ballot people too that will go down. And for those that don't go down, we are probably looking at superseding indictments from Jack Smith to sitting members of Congress after the election. Donald Trump isn't close. Donald Trump doesn't have a chance, and it's going to be fine based on the facts. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.